Oh, dogs. Okay. Okay, Pep, I get the idea. You want to go and take the gun. Right, let's go. The dog's retarded. It's not a normal dog. The Royal Horticultural Society have said we are in crisis. The industry is lacking youngsters coming through. This is Eggleston Hall Gardens, and over the next 12 months we're going to take you on a journey of what it's like to run a nursery garden. It's week 28 and up in this poplar candy cans is a most wonderful wasp's nest. They've used a bird box. Isn't that amazing? I think that's wonderful. Now some people would say get rid of them, burn them, but I don't think that's necessary. I think the good that they do negates the bad that they do. Although I'm not keen on wasps, but they are part of the cycle of life. Well, once Clara gets her fingers out and we have got on with sorting out these plants that have come in from another grower. It's always exciting when these plants arrive. They come in these flower boxes, and they come from a friend of ours, Graham, and it's just always exciting. It's such well-grown stuff, superbly packed, and it's stuff we run out of or stuff we don't do, or he's quite inventive in what he grows, and it's always nice and it's always good quality. So we have to just get it potted up and grow it on for the rest of this summer.
Ooh, geranium painter's palette. So
Painter's
there's 10
palette.
of them. Different.
That'll go with geranium splish splash.
Turn it off so you can get an action shot.
Get
On the best side.
an actual shot.
Action shot.
Have you an action shot?
Action
Oh well,
shot.
there's not much action going on other than you pushing a barrow.
Hey, you need from my house like you do Clara. Yep, so all I'm doing here is I'm potting on the eucalyptus. They've been needing potting for a little while now, but we're only really just now getting to it just because of how things have been. And this is a nice one, Eucalyptus crenulata, and I'm just potting them into some nice 10-litre pot and giving them a cane as well. Like this one you can see here, it's obviously it's lost its the leader out at some point, and it's grown up with 2 leaders. But the beauty of eucalyptus is it doesn't really matter how they sort of grow, because when they get to a certain age you can just prune them hard back anyway. So I'm just going to grow this one with a nice pair of leaders going up. I'll show you. And I mean, if there's any people watching who actually like the smell of eucalyptus, they'd love doing this, but myself, I'm not so keen, so I don't really like many smelly plants, so I'm not really enjoying this. What do you think, Lisa? Are you going to speak now? I'm getting a head shake from behind the camera, ladies and gentlemen. Lisa, a bit like a fart, Lisa is silent but deadly. You're going to regret coming to film this now, aren't you? So there we go. I'll get this finished because people will get bored of watching this, and I'll put one on. Well, now I can show you the potting of one as well. So I'll knock this one out of the pot in later. So all I'm doing, as normal, just take a good shoulder off, get rid of any weeds and weed seeds as well. And what I'm doing with these, this one isn't as bad as some of the others actually, because some of the others have got quite a bit of growth that's just died off because it's at the base. But what I'll do, I shall just try and tidy it up a little bit. Normally with trees you follow, as Malcolm I think said on videos before, follow the 2/3 rule, where you leave the tree 2/3 fully closed and 1/3 not. But to be honest with these eucalyptus, I'm just taking them to shake them up a little bit, because this one's hardly going to form your typical sort of tree with all these. It's quite a multi-branched thing. But just put some compost in the bottom. And just watch it don't break anything off. Just about the right level. Fill it in. And there's no need, although these are in quite small pots, there's no need to give them any extra feed. The eucalyptus, they're not a hungry thing, particularly just where they naturally grow. There's not a lot of nutrition in the soil, so they seem to be quite happy with just the nutrition that's in the compost. And that is that. I'll probably, with this one, I'll probably cane it to take that one leader up there and maybe that one, and I'll just sort of let the rest do their own thing. And there's a few out here of the different varieties we've got. That one was perennial art I've been potting. This one is Pulchella, which is a very, very nice one, very fine leaves. Very much like, has a sort of willow look to it. And it is a really quite a nice one. And then we've got Conifers over here, which although it's not one of the typical very round leafed ones, it's still really quite a nice leaf, and it seems to be quite a nice shape one as well. It's really, really bushy, really nicely clothed as well.
People won't say to me, why did you not stay as a gardener when you first started out? You're trained to be a gardener at Horticultural College. And yeah, I did. But the nursery side of things took over. One of the problems I saw with agriculture and horticulture in the United Kingdom was the fact that it was so poorly paid and people could never get ahead. We live in a country where when I was a young man, there was a lot of deference. And people with a lot of money, or the aristocracy, they used to have gardeners. That was the prime source of employment. And you were poorly paid, you worked long hours, and the worst of all was that you lived in a tied cottage, which means, if you're not familiar with that, it was a cottage that was part of your wages. This meant that if you lost your job or upset his lordship or whoever it was you worked for, you were out on your ear, homeless as well as unemployed. I've always found tied cottages unacceptable, and it was always, I think people got a lot of comfort from thinking, oh, I've been with the family for so long, 20, 30, 40 years. they'll look after me when I'm old or tired or infirm. And there may be one or two that did, but they are the vast exception. Most of them, they would just say, oh well, thank you, you're finished, we can get another one. And the modernisation of agriculture, as more and more people were taken off the farms because technology and machinery was such that you didn't need such high workforces, those tide cottages become, people were just kicked out, and the cottages were either sold or put up for rent because they could make more money, especially in the property boom of the sort of 80s. So yeah, tide houses, horticulture, always been a problem. I hope it ends and people that within the industry earn at least the living wage, because it's really important. That's a little rant, but it is the reason why I never stayed in gardening as much as I would have liked to. But specialising in propagation was what I really enjoyed as well. And that's why I worked for the government or in research for a good number of years before coming and taking this place on with my old partner Gordon. And we've just built it up from there. And the last 9 years now without Gordon, and the last 6 with Lisa became my partner and gave up teaching. I think it was the best thing she ever did, was to give up teaching. I think she would agree as well. So, having a wander around.
Hello.
Hello. What's going on?
So, whilst I'm doing here, I'm just ready to set up our shade cloth for where we put all our nibs and different bits that we take at this time of year. We like to bring them under here because it's nice and warm for them, but we have to put them under the shade and just give them a bit of hand, because obviously a lot of the nibs, well, they'll either be newly rooted cuttings or just fresh divisions that don't have a lot of root, so we have to put them under here just to keep them out there. The burning sun just lets us keep them nice, warm and moist.
Do you like it warm and moist? The plants, I mean, sorry, not you.
But the plants like it, don't they? Yeah. And I'm just trying to remember how this gets set up now.
Well, somehow we're going to have to do it so that the...
What we encountered last year was that we didn't have room for the drippers.
I tell you what, I'll give you a hand. I'll put this down, this camera, because you can't do it on your own, really. That's a bit better, isn't it?
Yeah. That's it. All we have to do now, fill it up and stuff for next year.
I think we're going to need another one of these soon, because we filled it up quite early last year.
Need a bigger bloody nursery.
Hello.
Come on then, come and show me what you've done in here.
Oh,
I'm told it looks lovely. I haven't.
you have. I saw you.
Oh yeah, that was about something else.
Just
Wasn't looking at this.
condensed. Just gave everything a little bit of space, because when we put them in, of course they're only tiny, and then they spread, and then because the light doesn't get in at the bottom of the leaves tend to go a little bit brown because they're not getting any light to them, and they dry a little bit and they get soggy. So we give them quite a bit of space, and that's what I've done in here. And tried to keep them in the varieties. All the
Looks much
different
nicer.
lovely, lovely different things. So many woodland plants. This is my favourite.
What? Oh, that lunaria.
Yeah, I love this.
It's like, it's honesty.
Yeah,
Except,
yeah. And then
except the pod, instead of being round with normal honesty, this is Lunaria rediva.
Yeah.
It's what they call elliptical.
and then you
Quite
keep
like a pea
these,
pod,
dry them out. They get dried out, and then you
Yeah.
can plant the seeds again, can't you?
If you want to.
Well, yeah. And I did. How long did lovely. This
The
one's
rooms?
a crimson giant. I love this. Absolutely love it. It's a bit like my skin, all wrinkled. Hazards of working outside. And then
What else have we got? The ferns look nice, Christine. Is that you that's got some sort of like stinky stuff
yeah,
on?
it's not intentional.
What is it?
It's just it's supposed to keep the flies off.
Oh, I thought it was like a posh perfume.
Well, it's a posh fly spray.
God.
I love that one. But I found it difficult to pronounce that one.
That's Karingashima.
Karingashima. So it's not as difficult
It's
as
Japanese
if you say
plant.
it fast. It's
Karingashima.
I
Yeah.
love anything like this.
or
This is
Karingashima.
absolutely gorgeous.
It is. It's lovely. It comes from Japan.
Yeah.
Yellow flowers later in the year.
I really love that.
You made a nice job of these ferns as well.
Yeah, and there are some lovely ones as well, because quite a lot. I was surprised at how many evergreen ones there are.
Yeah.
People just think that they just die back, but no, we've got quite a few nice evergreen ones. And then the other one, which you could fairy bells. Well, we always called it fairy bells anyway.
I don't know that.
But it's nice again. It's another disporum.
Disporum. I don't know the plant. Thomas
Green
got them.
Giant fairy bells. Absolutely gorgeous.
I thought it was a toad lily.
We had it in. No, that's. Oh no! The other thing that is good was the wild ginger.
I wish you'd stop bending over it. I keep filming up your ass.
I'm fancying a wild ginger. That sounds quite nice.
The Asarums, is it?
Yeah.
Is it Asarum? Ah. Yeah. I think there's 2 varieties. There's a European one as well.
I haven't spotted that.
Well, you made a lovely job in here. It's smashing. Oh God, look at this thing. This is that lamium. This is what Lisa likes. I cannot understand it. It's like a stinking old nettle. Lamium orvala.
Chromium.
Yeah. Yeah, look at it.
Oh no, it's yes, but when you get close up, this is what you have to do. Is where it's a bit like a snapdragon, isn't it?
I don't know. Looks like a fanny to me. Ow.
It has a pine, and it comes down to the branches and foliage comes down to about, I don't know, 3-4 foot off the ground, and it's very dark underneath. And at the moment, he's got Christmas rose in.
Yeah, put that underneath. That'll do
And
fine.
that would be, but he likes something with a bit of colour.
It's a variegated ground elder.
But it's obviously, like you say on the label, it's not as invasive as the other.
No, it's not invasive
It
at all.
behaves itself.
It is actually very, very nice. I mean, people get. I showed people on YouTube this, and some of them got a bit sniffy about it.
Oh, right.
I don't know why, because it actually is quite a nice leaf.
I've taken some photographs of it, but I just didn't know if you could suggest anything else.
Well, you could grow vinca,
Yeah.
you know, periwinkles,
Yeah.
toad lilies, Brunner do well,
I wondered what Solomon's seal.
Solomon seal, any of those.
The dwarf one.
There's that little dwarf one. Now that spreads around like buggery.
Oh, right. And what's the flower like then?
Oh,
Like bell-shaped.
yeah, just ordinary Solomon seal.
yeah.
And that's another one.
Yes.
That's another little dwarf that has a pink flower.
Oh. Well, anyway, I took some photographs of it, and I just
Right.
didn't know which you weren't here to ask to recommend.
And the bistorts, all of the bistorts you could grow.
Yeah.
The ones that look like a dock leaf.
The Persicaria. Are they a family from the Persicaria family? They look like?
Dock is rumex, I
Oh,
think.
is it?
But
Right.
it looks like that way.
Yeah. And
I suspect you can still wipe your bottom on it,
I've just spotted a weed.
just
and
like a
I've
dock
lost
leaf.
it.
If you wanted to.
It was here a minute ago.
Our swallows. Let's have a look. There they are up there. Let's see where we can just. There they go. They're flying past our heads, on and off, all day long. They just come straight in through the door. It really is quite amazing. They seem to be happy to cohabit with us. Whereas, there you are, it just came in.
Right, I'm potting these delphiniums called Min, so a nice blue coloured flower, up. So basically what we've been doing is taking these crown buds. You see all these little buds up here attached to the root. So we've been basically dividing them and separating them, and then going to put them into these pots. Oh, I'll make a funny of this. I'll do another one. See that? That's the bud. That'll make a lovely delphinium plant, we hope. So.
Right, and that's all there is to it. Time after time after time.
Yeah, it's very good though, because from like one big plant, you get you get quite a lot. I don't know how many, like 60 little plants of them. So
thank you, Clara.
it's very good.
Some of these items up on the wall now have to be. They've either got to go for repotting, or we put them down for sale. This Lacesteria formosa. They used to have fields of this stuff, not this golden one. It's pheasant berry or partridge berry. I used to have fields of it when I was a kid. A lot of the knobs used to use it for cover for pheasants, and then they used to release the pheasants so they could shoot them again. Yeah, I think it's classified as a sport. Anyway, the some of them are making really nice little plants now, and rather than pot them up, we can sell them at this price. This is about £8.95, something like that. This is a nice Escalonia called Golden Ellen. This Photinias. This is Cotoneaster cornubia. Normally we would grow that onto a large shrub about 4 or 5 foot tall before we actually sell it. Some of these beautiful berberis, and this Sorbaria sem. There's some nice what do you call it, sambucus there. Very nice young Cotoneaster. Now if you buy the larger plants in the garden centre, they're going to cost you a fair bit. So if you're prepared to wait and grow them on yourself, it's actually quite a reasonable way of building up the shrubs. You saw earlier in the year when we kept putting stuff on this this wall. The alpines are ready to be propagated. Again, it's more time. But I think Clara and Thomas are down the potting shed today. I'm just having a morning moving plants. There's some different eucalypts there. That lovely little Salix spireas. Oh, it just goes on, there's a whole load of climbers. Some of them that from last year I moved up to the next size pot. For us is usually a 5 litre, or if it's a small grinding, a 3 litre pot. But here you've got Euonymus, Buddleias, Weigelas, Stephanandra. You don't see that very often. Stephanandra crispa. Yeah, it's a nice foliage plant. These hypericums. This is the magical range of hypericums. Just coming into flower. They're used by flower arrangers, this particular mix. Not just for the flowers in bouquets and things, but they actually have very good autumn colour, and berries. You get really good berries on them. Those there are the rubus that Thomas propagated with an axe or a billock or a machete or something. Just chopped them up. They're doing really well. Normally you would, let me give you a shot. So it's really grown for its stem colour. Now this is the old stem from last year, and this is the new one, and this is the one that grows up with this lovely white colour that looks ghostly in the winter in your garden. It's bare white stems. It's very, very attractive. It's a bit of a prickly bastard, but it is attractive. By rights we should get up here. I'll do this one now while I'm holding this camera in one hand and just nip out the old growth. Don't really need it, so that all the energy goes into making a nice young growth. There we are. Now that should grow about 4 or 5 feet. So it's a lovely, lovely thing, and it actually is quite dramatic. Not you, Pepper, you're not dramatic, you're a pain in the ass. It's quite dramatic in the winter, especially in pots, because it's something that doesn't have leaves on in the winter, but it still looks good, like the Cornus alba, the red stemmed Cornus, green stemmed, and all the others. So you can see that's how it works. And every year in the garden you just cut out the old growths and let the new ones come up. It's rubus, so it's much the same as a blackberry or a loganberry or a tayberry. So yeah, these larger pots are from last year. Escallonia. Now we're often asked, have we got an evergreen hedger or a shrubber that flowers, is evergreen and makes the tea? So we tend to point them towards Escallonias. You saw the other one a few minutes ago called Golden Ellen, but this is I can't remember what it is. It's a nice pink one, apple blossom, and it has a nice blossomy, apple blossomy sort of feel to it. Flowering period is quite good. You just wouldn't put them in a very, very windy situation. And these boys, Euonymus red cascade. Yeah, it's a spindle, and the autumn foliage on it is as good as a Japanese maple. We'll come back to those later. Thomas has been having a clear out. We have one thing that I think are getting too much sun are these hellebore seedlings. I think we're going to have to move them. They're not doing very well at all. So I think we'll get those moved somewhere cooler. They look pretty dire to me. And some of these are last year's nibs. A lot are the alpine cuttings that we took. And we were working on, back in January I would think, off and on. Probably Clara was doing some as well. Before lockdown. We're still playing catch up with that. Now 1,000 feet up in the high Pennines. And this is a fig we have on the wall. Let's have a look. You can see that it's got the figs on it. And when they're ripe, I tried one. It's yeah, it ain't my cup of tea. It didn't do it for me. I remember as a kid you used to get a thing called syrup of figs. Like your mother used to give it to you if you were like constipated. Well, my mother just used to give it to you anyway, in case you were constipated. Syrup of figs and molten cod liver oil. It was like a sticky stuff. That was all right. But a syrup of figs, oh God, it's horrible. Look at it, look at that. Looks like a bulldog's bollocks. Okay, God. Now, if you've never seen a bulldog, well, they look like they've been stuck on as an afterthought. There was no need for that. There was no recourse to smut there, was there, really? It really is infantile. I have to grow up. Just out of interest, last week I showed you a verbascum nigrum. Well, not 10 yards away from it, is the verbascum album. Same as the nigrum. Sorry, I was distracted there. It sounded like my dog was throwing up, but in actual fact, she was just drinking out the stream. I'm going down here so that I can look up your nostrils. Fire away then.
Oh. These are pulmonarias.
Lungworts.
Lungworts. They get scratty and a bit scabby, more so in pots than in the ground, but they do a bit in the ground. So all you have to do to them, chop them back, and they'll throw up some really nice foliage. I have this one at home, which is opal. I cut mine back and it's like this, and I've got a photo, but I don't know if you can put a photo there.
I can.
You can? Oh wow. We'll do that then. And it's big, and the foliage is as good as a hosta, but it doesn't get eaten by slugs. Some are better than others. They're not all got super foliage. There's some are quite silvery. I've already put them back. And some have this spotty. They're not quite as bad. But some of these, they'll come back really well. And it just... this is a silver one. Samurai. There's a few silver ones. There's that's an old one we have as well. I can't remember its name. But you can imagine if that was a big heap of foliage without all this crap. It does look quite impressive. They'll never look as good in a pot as they do in the ground because some just don't. There's a geranium there.
Just going to watch you do that one.
If you did it at home, you could do it a bit more particularly.
That looks all right to me.
But when you're doing these, you can't be fannying on.
No.
So just get all this crap out. There's quite a bit of weed seedlings in there.
Yeah.
And they'll soon, it's amazing how quickly they come back.
Could actually divide them if you wanted
Not quite
to.
a lot.
Yeah, we have so many, so we might as well do them in nice, decent sized potfuls.
And a big clump of them does look impressive.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
That bloody horseradish there, that gets bigger every year, you know. I don't know if anybody's ever had or dug horseradish. Have you ever grated it?
No, my mum once had it in an allotment and it was everywhere. It was a right bastard. It's full of horseradish and raspberries.
Yeah.
You can forgive the raspberries.
Yeah, it's guaranteed to make your eyes water. The seedling rose is still in flower and still looking beautiful. So, talking about roses, let's go down and see Wendy in Dorset. Couldn't call Matthew a rose, but yeah, Wendy, that's all right. Come on, Tucker, go find that bloody rabbit. We're going to Dorset.
Well, it's the time of year again that we do all the grafting.
Can't believe it's a year ago since I was sat here doing it, but hey ho, it is. I have been doing some over the last week, but I'm going to be sat here for the next possible 9 weeks, just plodding on doing the little pot liner grafts. These were seedlings that were potted last year. They're nice size, nice thickness now, so that I can graft them. So today I'm doing Shurasuanum aureum, which is the full moon maple, which is really lovely. Likes a shady spot, this one. There's a few varieties that prefer a little bit more shade, otherwise they can scorch, but on the whole the majority of the reds and the greens are fine in full sun. This one, it's going to make a nice little plant eventually, so I need my strong glasses. There we go for this. So trim all the leaves off, because as soon as you cut this piece, which is called the scion, from the parent plant, it's losing moisture from the leaves, so we have to trim it all off. And that's the first cut, and then we do second cut, and then a third cut on the scion, and then on the stock just one cut like that, and then you just, difficult to do it without putting it down, and that gets, if you can see, that gets slotted in there, and then I just put a natural rubber tie on just to keep it together. Don't know how well you can see that. Yeah, so that'll sit there for 3 weeks or more and hopefully callus together. So there's another one. So all the leaves off. Some varieties you can just literally strip the leaves off, but this one's likes to hang on to them a bit more, so not quite so easy. So 1 cut, 2 cut, 3 cuts on the scion. One cut on the stock. Put them together. And tie. There's another one. So I've done about 1,500 so far. Got another 10 plus to do at least. So that'll be me for the next few weeks, in between phone calls and customers and watering and other jobs. Actually, since we've been doing these little slots on Malcolm's YouTube channel, we've had some really nice customers that have come in that through that that have seen us, so we do appreciate them coming in. It's really nice that they come in especially at the times as they are at the moment. So yeah, so it's been good. Thanks, Malcolm. Okay, I better get on and do some more. Something else I've done today, which was another of John's ideas several years ago, was to graft onto these, it's probably 2.5 to 3 foot stems. They are a bit tough because they're fairly old, the wood, but
managed to successfully graft 1, 2, 3 pieces onto there to make a decent dissectum head. If you put one piece on, it seems to take a few years before they're saleable. So hopefully putting 3 bits on, it'll make up to a nice head, nice plant a bit sooner. So yeah, just another idea. Graft them at all different heights. Some people like patios, which are like the little 2-foot high ones. Some people like them on a single stem. Some people like multi-stems, so they're just all grafted differently really. But yeah, I've only done that one so far. We're just picking out some stems. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Here's my little heap of leaves that I cut from the scions. It shrinks down overnight and I top it up every day, and then once it reaches the top of the desk and doesn't shrink down, I know that I've finished the maples. So that'll be another couple of months' time. One year I was sat here and it started moving. I thought, what on earth is going on? And out came this big fat toad, which was really quite funny. He obviously thought it was nice and warm in the centre because it had started composting. But yeah, I wondered what on earth was going on. But yeah, got to have some things going on around here when you're sat there for weeks.
It's a pleasure to help out down there, Wendy. It's no hardship for me. In fact, it's a great help you putting stuff on here. And I know the viewers that watch this absolutely love it. Right, now here's a thing here. Now look at this. That's a stinging nettle. That's because there's a lot of stinging nettles. But the flowers here are Philadelphus Belle Étoile. You can tell it's Belle Étoile. It has that lovely sort of slight maroony, purpley twang to the middle where the stamens are. But that's not the flower I wanted to show you. It's this thing. This little red chap with the spurs on the back. This is a Tropiolum. And this garden at Sunnyside is a mess. There's a lot of good plants in here, but as you know, it's a project I have got planned for the future. Was hoping to start it this year, but it's not going to work. But amongst the good plants, you can see it's spreading all over there. Amongst them is this Tropiolum, Tropiolum speciosum, sometimes called the flame flower or the Scottish flame flower. It's a nasturtium family. It's a little sod to do. As a nurseryman, I've never been able to crack it and do it in any quantity. It's also one of those little flowers. I mean, it's very, very lovely, and it just goes everywhere. Look, there's brambles here as well, and it's all over them. I've seen it growing through Leylandii hedges. Well, what's the other hedge? Yew hedging. And you can plant it. You can get a plant if you can find one. You can get a piece and you can pamper it and put it somewhere absolutely perfect. Dies, turns its toes up and dies. And at other times you can just chuck it in the border, forget about it, or you can have a pot and just leave it somewhere where you intended to plant it, or just chuck it under the hedge and forget all about it. In a couple of years, it's all over the place, rampant. It's a frustrating little plant, but very, very nice in the right position, and just letting it do its thing. Look, it's all over this apple tree, and down through those other nettles and deep into the garden. Wonderful thing. Oh, penstemons just coming into flower, one or two of them. They are a nice flower. Yeah, I think that one's Amelia Jane. It's really nice, but the flower heads are looking quite prolific, so I think
You were sceptical of putting them into 5 litres, wasn't you?
oh god, they're in 5s.
Yeah.
Was that your idea?
Me and Lisa conspired against you.
Well, keep conspiring.
We know best now to ignore you.
Good. I'm just going down here to see something. He's telling me that there's something interesting down here. Oh no, they do look nice.
Out before you're watching this, if you're the sort of person who looks at this or thinks, oh, it's a conifer, it's boring, I don't like conifers, just piss off, will you? Just piss off. No one cares. You're going to put that in the comments. Just piss off. Because how can you not like that?
It is very, very nice. Can you just hold it straight? This is AB's icebreaker, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
little
there's another
cream,
name, but I can't ever pronounce it. Very expensive.
AB's Coriana Cahoots icebreaker.
Cahoots icebreaker, yeah.
Cahoots.
Because it has to be done under license. But it's a lovely, lovely thing. A really, really beautiful plant.
That's really prominent. All this new growth, how the needles are reflexed, and it retains that as well. It's not as prominent or as strong, but it still retains that sort of reflects to the needle.
Right.
And it only gets to, in 10 years, I think ours start to put on a leader now at about 5-6 years old. It's not even a foot tall yet.
No. Oh, that's amazing. It's a lovely thing. Oh, that's nice as well. What's that?
That is another one of your Cahoots. Cahoots Hex. Hex just means, I think means it's short for witch's broom in German or Eastern European.
Right.
That's another one that you just see the back of the needles when the new growth's coming out.
They're all looking rather nice here, aren't they?
Very happy, yeah. And your Span's Cannonball.
Yeah, now look at that. That is a cracking thing. So the trouble is, that you see the market traders, now we charge 20 quid for that. That's like, I don't know, it's almost a 30 centimetre ball, isn't it?
Yeah.
Certainly a 25 centimetre ball. And we charge 20 quid for that. And then people go on the market and they say, oh, I got a small dwarf conifer on the market for 3 quid. And then in 5 years' time they come back and say, oh, do you know what, can you tell me what to do with this conifer? I bought it as a dwarf and it's now 20 foot tall.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is, I can guarantee this one's a true dwarf. Span's Cannonball. That'll be, I think we've had them about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
Grafted, so.
They have to be grafted, and Matthew does our grafting for us down at Bartholomew's. They know what they're doing, and they have access to some good stock plants. And there is, people have to realise there's a big difference between a grafted conifer and a baby conifer. Because babies grow into great big things.
Then,
look at him.
Like that.
I remember him as a baby. It was horrible. Thomas.
What?
Don't be juvenile. I'm going to tell Lisa. I'm telling. Tell us about this one, because I love this.
This is the golden Spanish fir, Abies Pinsapo aurea. You can see it keeps all year round that, like the top of the growth is golden, but when the new growth comes out, it's all fully gold. Well, not golden yellow, but just like soft, creamy yellow coloured. And Liz likes to call this one, she calls it monkey hands, because it apparently reminds her of monkey hands.
Right.
And it's a bit of a beggary because it's the only one we've got where we have some young ones coming on the wall. I sent them down to be grafted this last time because people are always asking for this one.
They are. I've been asked for this loads.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of saying we haven't got it. It's nice. It's lovely.
But, yeah.
Isn't it quite slow in its initial years?
It is slow in its initial years. Yeah, it will eventually form like in 20 years time a good 6 to 8 foot just pyramid of colour. But yeah, you can see there it's only putting on. What do you say is?
It's a Spanish fir.
4 or 5 inches
4 or
a year?
5 inches, yeah. Spanish fir.
Spanish fir, yeah.
Pinsapo, Abies.
Pinsapo
aurea.
aurea.
It's a beautiful thing. For once, I'm in agreement with you.
Now, here, I'm just going to be taking these up to put under the cloth because whilst we've not had the cloth set up, this is the thing we use just in the meantime. But these are the Perennials I did a few weeks ago. I could tell you exactly if I find the label. I did them the 5th of June. So over a month ago now. This is the Rosé Grandiflora or Grandiflora Rosé, I can't remember which. And you can see all the growth coming on them. And
just starting to root through.
they're starting to root.
It's a lovely thing, that. Isn't it bronze in its earlier stage?
Yeah, the new growth, like when it comes through in spring, it's bronzy coloured. These probably would have been, but they've just been in full shade. So.
Yeah. And this is just a crate. You could use. I've used polystyrene crates in the past with just a piece of shade netting over the top, and then you can always put a bit of plastic, you know, just ordinary plastic stuff over the top of that.
This is another one I did the same day. This is Primulus Siboldii Snowflake.
Yeah,
It's called.
yeah, that's starting to root in as well.
And it's a bit of a different one in how it grows. It doesn't grow in a rosette like the typical Primulas do. It's almost like has creeping, it's almost like rhizomes.
Yeah.
Like it creeps more.
I don't think I've lost a single cut in there.
Well, I did like christen myself Mr. 100%, didn't I?
Yeah.
Well,
I'd like to find a failure, but I actually can't find one, which is as irritating as hell. Yeah, well done.
Oh, thank you, boss. Can I have a raise now?
No, fuck off.
Oh.
One of the interesting things about having a nursery is that by their very nature, they have a lot of flowering plants. You cast your eyes or the camera across those borders, and there's perennials by the thousand on those beds. But because of that, things tend to seed around, and you get these seedlings that they're not a vegetatively propagated plant. They're an unusual seedling specific to here, and this is a prime example of it. This is a regersia. You can see it has these wonderful big heads of white fluffy flowers. Now there's lots of regersias, and this will be just a hybrid of one here in the nursery beds. We used to keep the regersias quite close to here. You can see the size of these leaves. They are just huge, lovely big and dark green. And it's just, so many people have asked us what this is and can they have a plant of it this year. So it's one that we're going to have to propagate. It's not going to be my problem, but I think Lisa and Thomas and the others are going to have to really work on this, because it's a plant that needs to be done by division. And if we get down there, you can see how it's spread along the base of this wall. It's a wonderful thing. But these heads, and this is in absolutely near on in absolute full shade. So it's a plant I'm very proud of, and I may actually I may name it after somebody I like, probably me actually. No, it's beautiful, and I think I'll probably name it after Lisa, because I need the brownie points, always. One of the things I did forget to mention, and you can still see the vestiges of the colour, it actually starts off pink and turns this really frothy white as it produces the seeds from within the centre of you can see in the middle there, in the centre of each flower is a seed pod forming. Beautiful thing.
Why, thank you.
Not you. Unlike those spider's web fatsias, which are absolutely horrible.
I'm taking osteospermum Wisley pink cuttings, so they have really nice pink flower in summertime. So what we do is get our cutting about 10 centimetres roughly, and then we take a few leaves off. Because obviously we haven't rooted yet, so we don't want all the transpiration happening, where the moisture basically goes out of the leaf. So And then we get our 50 to 50 compost and grit. A pot like this. And then I'm just going to take that off where the node is. Rooting powder. Put a stick in there. And then put your cutting in there like so. And I'm going to put about 10 in a pot. And do 100, I think. Or a few hundred. So I'm just going to put a bit more compost on. But these will root away really nicely.
Yeah, and then for these, we're not using one of our proper propagators. We're just going to bung these in a black crate with just a sheet of plastic over the top and then the shading, just to keep in the humidity and keep it a bit of shade. Because the Osteospermums, they're nice enough cutting to do. Then they're easy enough.
Yeah, I grew them last year when I didn't even know what I was doing. But easy.
Right, so what I'm doing here is just some cuttings off this apple mint. We wouldn't normally do the cuttings off the apple mint. We'd normally, or any of the mints, we'd normally wait till we divide them either in autumn or in spring. But we've sold out this year, and we're just going to try it just so we can get a lot of plants in a very short period of time. And these are Lisa's couple of plants that she uses herself actually, so she wouldn't want to lose any, which we would do if we divided them. So all I'm doing, it's just a basic stem cutting really, much like I did with the Diaceas a couple of weeks ago. But more or less, I can't really use any of the too softer growth, and then just go along the stem like so. Not been too worried about getting right up close to the buds, because I would expect that a mint might actually just about root from its own stem. Like I say, we've never really done the cuttings of mint here, but it's something I've done it at home, just where you stick it in water and it ends up rooting. So I imagine these should work quite easily. Well, famous last words, but I expect they will work. And yeah, so I've got putting 9 in the pot, so hopefully going to have plenty of them. Right, so what we've got here is Nepeta Blue Dragon. I believe it might be like in Siberica or Siberica hybrid, and it's a plant. It's very popular. The bees love it. Does stink, but I think you've actually filmed this on video before, but you can get a nice close up. But what I'm going to try to do, because we've tried cuttings of it in the past, and they seem to have a pretty poor success rate. So what I'm going to do with this one, since I've been potting the others up, I'll just cut this back to tidy it up when I start, is I'm going to try just dividing it right down quite small, because you can see from below the surface it looks like it sends off all these adventitious shoots below the surface. So it looks like, I'm pretty confident I will be able to divide it quite easily. And again, a lot of people sometimes watching these videos wonder why we actually divide things at this time of year, like the hostas and different things. And the reason we do it is so they can get a nice established root system before the winter, and they'll overwinter nice in a small pot for us just to pot up in the spring to make a saleable plant. If we divide them like this in the spring, right down, we won't have realistically a saleable plant for next year until either very late in the year or not at all. The plant just wouldn't be saleable until the following year. So we do it now to get some saleable plants next year. See there, actually, I mean, I'll cut these back further. I just did it to tidy it up at first. Now I've got that bit with a bit of root, and I would hope there might be some. You can sometimes see the buds at the bottom that are going to become the new growth, like there, in the base of that stem. Lovely little new shoot coming there. So it looks like this might be the easiest way to propagate this bugger, rather than pissing about with cuttings. There we go. So I'll just leave that as is. Again, I'll cut it back further. I'll leave some leaf, on it is, but then I'll just put that probably into a square 9 and then just see what happens.
Just
But there,
pop
see.
one up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks good. I wonder how many times people have watched us pot a plant up on these videos. It must get monotonous, but you got to finish it off.
Yeah.
There you are.
Monotonous watching, but you can guarantee we've potted a hell of a lot more plants than they ever see.
Have you filmed Clara doing the osteosperms? Oh well.
It's not that interesting enough to warrant 2 lots.
No. No. Not interested enough to warrant 2 lots of filming.
No, the flower, like, it flowers this time
I'm taking
of year.
you up the garden soon to do some tip cuttings. Tip, not tit.
Come on.
Take you up the garden. Show you my tips. Oh. We are going to do some tip cuttings. You won't have done those before.
No.
I'm not even sure Thomas has done them actually.
Well, I have. I've told this story.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
done tip cuttings, then either John or Brian cut them bloody off.
Oh dear.
They cut off my tips. They removed my tips.
You haven't got much use for a tip anyway. Is the bugger going yet?
Hmm?
Look at Fanny.
What we're doing now?
We are going to do blackberry cuttings. These are blackberries, brambles, whatever you want to call them. Up here they call them brambles. I've always called them blackberries, but they are. Plant is a bramble really. Anyway, that aside, the only effective way of doing blackberries is with layers, but they have to be tip layers. Usually with a normal layer, if you can get this, we layer it down, we wound the bottom and we layer it into the ground, and then we just leave it, and then it grows away and we cut it off. We can do a serpentine layer where we can cut it along, we can layer it at different points along the same branch. But with blackberries, we have to do the tips. Now, if it was the open ground and this wasn't on this plastic film, we could make a slit and just poke the tips into there. But what we've got here is a tray of 2 litre long tom pots, and I've about 1/3 filled each of them with compost. So I'm just going to put that in there for now. Now, let's try one of these. You need to take your branch, maybe cut off one of the leaves, not the very tip ones, but just to clear a little bit of stem, just enough. And then what you need to do is get some compost. What we're going to do here is just put this into this pot, and then we're going to just put compost on the top. Simple as that. We're just going to bury the tip of the blackberry in there. Now, you find with blackberries there is a natural resistance, a springiness of the plant. It wants to spring itself out. So with each one, we're just going to put a cane down through, and we're going to, you could use string as well, we're just going to tie it to the cane. Then that will stop that, give it some support and stop that natural inclination of coming out. There's another one here we can use. I'm not even going to bother. That's got 2 tips on it because the original tip has been broken off. You don't actually have to clear any leaves off. You can just bury the whole thing. To resist the temptation of using old shoots, you need to use this year's fresh young growth that are coming up from the base. Does that make sense, Clara?
Yep, that does.
So I'm just going to put this
Easy.
in here, and again I'm going to take this.
So you do it, you leave it attached to the
Yeah, the whole thing is left attached to the main stem, because that's supplying the feed into this tip, and that extension growth, because it's dark, the hormones in it are going to produce roots because it's dark and moist in those pots. This, you can do this with loganberries. You can do it with, you must have a really good vigorous tip. You can see here it's got a nice vigorous tip. That's actually being chewed off at one point. Let's find an even better one. You can do it with loganberries, tayberries, and there is a nice ornamental rubus called Benenden. You see there? Have a close up of that. That is a really good healthy tip. And all we're going to do is just take these leaves off. Just not all of them. Leave the tip. And it really is quite simple. And you just bury it. The old way, I say, was to do it in the open ground. And you just made a slit with a spade and poked them in. But for us here, we can't do that because the blackberry is on a plastic coated, well, Mypex coated bed. And we're just going to do a dozen of these. Well, I'm going to do about 3 and you're going to do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to come back and film what you've done. Yeah, this is just to stop that springiness. So there you go. Job done. Well, my part of it is.
Oh shit.
Explain to me what you're doing.
So after seeing Malcolm give us a demonstration, I'm going to propagate this one. So I've just taken off 2 of the leaves closest to the tip, and then I'm gently just bending this long bramble, and I'm going to fill it with compost. See the tips right in there in the pot. Make sure you use gauntlets, these gloves, because it's very spiky. And just make sure the tip's upright also. I think that's okay. And now get your cane in there. That should be okay. And then just tie it in. I've got the luxury of having Malcolm's tool. It's very, very handy.
You're the first female that's ever said that.
Yeah.
Right. So everything is finished now. We've put 2 12 trays. This is the trays that the pots stand in. We've just used 2 because it was easier to get the layers across in 2 different areas. It was getting a bit congested over here. So we've got 6 there and 6 over there. Come back in the autumn and they should have rooted through beautifully. Ready for sale next spring.
Now.
You're
think-
going
yeah,
to start with a big one.
Yes, why not start with a big one? Malcolm's going to do a bit of a reveal on his vegetables today for us.
Look at that one there. That there. See, the courgettes are doing well. There's that.
That is so impressive.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that?
That's way bigger than the one I've got at home.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, there's no answer to that, is there? I should get a new one. It just reminds me of the bloke that said it's not a very big organ, is it?
Please don't tell
Or
this
no,
joke.
it was the woman that said it's not a very big organ.
Okay.
And the fella said it's never played in a fucking cathedral before. There we are. I'm going to expose my carrot.
It's not the first time.
Where are we?
It's a lot of rustling in the undergrowth to get this.
Yeah, there we are. Look at these. Now these, it's a lovely time to have them. Look at that.
Oh, they are good.
Yeah.
They do look nice.
Yeah, look at that. There's an extra long one for you. But I think it's the width that matters more than anything. You want a good, a good Chantenay type carrot with a bit of width to it. Look at that.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
You wouldn't need too many of them, would you?
No,
It's just that you could grow them on for winter carrots, but they're so cheap to buy in the shops, really.
They're beautiful.
I don't understand all this stuff. You know, you can't eat healthy for a reason, because vegetables are actually quite cheap.
So you just wash those and eat them? Or do you not even wash them?
Well, you don't need to, really. But, well, yeah, you would. There's a bit of damage on it. Look at that. There. Aren't
Fabulous.
they beautiful?
Fabulous.
They are fabulous. Not a word I would use, but they're probably of a different age range than you. That's not a very big one.
That's not so good. It's a
So-
little bent at the end.
The beans are just starting to flower. These peas, these have been quite.
I'm edging along through the undergrowth here.
They're not quite ready.
What are those
But I
ones?
think they're a bit like you actually. I'm hoping they're quite fulsome.
Do you mean
Yeah.
healthy?
Yeah, fulsome. There we are. Look at that.
Whoa. Are there peas?
Yeah. Do you want to try?
I'm
Scrape
gonna have a
them out
pea.
and eat them.
Oh, I dropped one. Oh, that's sweet as anything.
It's very hard to have a pea without dropping one sometimes.
You ruin everything, Malcolm.
Well, it is. You just drop one. By having a pea. I think that is enough, don't you?
I think that's enough. I think you're gonna have too much
Shall-
excitement in
shall we
these
have
videos.
There's another one there. Go on.
God, they are good. They're so sweet, and you've just grown all of these in basically a big bucket.
Well, I would call it a 2 foot wide pot, but you can call it a bucket if you want.
Bouquet. Oh,
The
God.
good thing is about
Can't get it.
aren't they nice?
They're
And
really sweet.
actually, try chewing the pod. Go on, chew
Seriously,
the pod.
is that
Go
like
on.
a mange
No,
too?
yeah, mangy twat. Go on. What do you think of that? You don't eat it, swallow it. You just spit it out, but the juice is quite nice.
It's quite, yeah, that's sweet too. It's a bit stringy.
You don't have to swallow, just spit it.
I won't spit right now because of
Oh,
the global pandemic.
Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But then these beans, you see, now they're all setting really well. You see up here?
Are these broad beans?
Yes, these are broad beans. There's supposed to be something in the flower that is sort of like gets girls going. Apparently, There's always,
I'm not feeling it,
The
Malcolm.
old
I'm not
gardeners
feeling
used to
it.
always say, "Hey, you got a girlfriend? You get her in the bean field. You'll be all right."
Wouldn't any field do?
Probably, but I think it was taller, so nobody could see your ass go up.
We're not
That was filthy.
publishing this one, Malcolm. You've gone too far.
All right then.